Welcome and thank you for joining us for IOFM's virtual demo day. We have a few housekeeping notes to go over before we start our next demonstration. If you have any technical questions or issues using the WebEx platform, please use the chat box and I will respond right away. If you have any issues with the audio at any time, please click the phone icon to receive the teleconference information. For those that do need to call in to ensure call quality, everyone's lines have been muted today. But we do encourage you to ask questions throughout the demonstration. Please type your questions into the chat box and hit send to submit them. At the end of the demo, we will have our presenter answer questions. And if we're not able to get to all questions, we will send them over to the sponsor to get a quick reply back. So please know that if we don't get to all questions, we will get a response for you. Please note this event will not be available on demand. Please plan to attend the sessions that are of interest to you. Your webinar confirmation email provides you full day access and you can come and go as you see fit. Our next demonstration is sponsored by Dooap and is going to be presented by Amanda Strickland, who is the Solutions Consultant. And at this time, I would like to welcome Amanda.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to share my screen. So I'm with Dooap, and this is me, Solutions Consultant. I've been with the company about a year and a half now. Today we're going to go over a solution overview, the demo, a little bit about our onboarding, and then a Q&A session. So with our overview, we're Dooap. We're a software company solely focused on AP automation for D365 and AX 2012. We're certified by Microsoft and we're headquartered in Austin, Texas. So Dooap provides you with everything you need for your accounts payable team for invoice processing, including an approval workflow that lives outside of the restrictions of the built-in Dynamics workflows. That's designed specifically for invoice processing. The coding of non-PO invoices, which can be coded to both ledger accounts or projects, and the coding is validated in real time against the account structure that lives within Dynamics. We have two-way and three-way matching of PO invoices. So upon import, if the PO is on the invoice image, the system will match and bring in the PO and PR automatically. If there's any deviations in price, quantity, or the invoice includes any miscellaneous charges, all of those adjustments can be done within the Dooap platform. We also offer reporting through the Power BI. As a part of the implementation process, we customize a set of reports based on your reporting needs. We have a standard set of reports that we've used previous feedback on to develop and provide to all of our customers. We keep detailed logs of all of the actions taken within the system, including an audit trail of all approvals taken on the invoice and any changes made to data, in addition to any Dynamics-related messaging upon transfer. And since we're built within the Microsoft Azure cloud, and specifically for the Dynamics platform, we're continuously making sure that we meet requirements for compliance. This slide just shows some examples of the data that's seamlessly exchanged between Dooap and Dynamics. All master data lives within Dynamics, and we work with an API to fetch and push data between the two systems. We have a job that runs twice a day that pulls in most of this data, and then the real-time fetching is done with the non-PO invoices with when you're coding. It'll pull those coding dimensions in real time, as well as your PO and PR information. That's also done in real time. Now for the demo. All right, so this is the Dooap platform, and let me see. So this is a landing page that most users will see when they log into Dooap. The look and feel of the invoice handling page will be determined by whether I'm set up as an AP or an approver. As an AP, I'll see all invoices that are ready to be processed. As an approver, I would only see the invoices that have been sent to me for approval in the workflow. Now, the AP workspace is laid out in a Kanban style. So you'll see the previous invoices, and this section shows invoices that were previously processed, active invoices, This section shows the invoice that I'm currently working on, and it can be multiple. So you see I have 2 pulled up here. And it's based on an algorithm that includes invoice date, due date, and cash discount date. So Dooap will suggest an invoice for AP to process, and will bring that invoice up automatically from the next invoices section. And that section is just basically a list of invoices that are waiting to be processed. On the right, this section will show the invoice image for the currently selected invoice. Once that invoice arrives to Dooap, a PDF will load, as well as an XML, which is where the header data is sourced from and is a good tool for troubleshooting. You'll also see the full invoice audit trail in this section. So you'll see it here. Any information that's been added or edited, or any actions taken, like sent in the workflow, will show here. And this actually goes from import to transfer to Dynamics. So you see everything that's been done on that invoice. And you can also add supplemental documentation, so attachments, here in the paperclip. Up at the top, you'll see the workflow. This is the workflow for the active invoice that I'm currently processing. We can customize these workflows and set them to default in certain scenarios. Like if this particular preset is the workflow that we always use for this vendor, we could set that up in the admin module as a default for that vendor. These are called workflow presets. In the onboarding phase, we will work with your team to gather the workflow processes that you're currently using in your company to configure the workflows, and that will increase the efficiency within the AP department so that that's not having to be built out each time. The more defaults that you have in place, whether it be at the company level, the invoice level, or the vendor level, as described in the example before, the more your AP processes will be automated, and everybody wants to be fully automated, right? So the way you read this is that the current step is highlighted in green. So you'll see the little green circle here. And then once you move it into the workflow, the next person will be highlighted in green. And that's visible by AP at any point in the process. Your approvers will get an automated daily email or multiple emails a day if requested, notifying the user of invoices waiting in their queue. There's a hyperlink in that email, so all that they have to do is click the link and it directs them to Dooap. You may get asked for your Microsoft credentials when doing that, but you'll just, if you get locked out of your Microsoft, but you just simply put in your credentials and then you get logged into Dooap. You'll also see that we have integrated machine learning into the workflow selection, as well as in non-PO coding. So you'll see here in this section right here that machine learning can be utilized to automatically select the workflow based on percentages. So machine learning can be utilized in the environments when it's not efficient to maintain strict rule-based automation for workflow selection. And the system includes a powerful self-learning algorithm which runs in the background to find correlations between your invoice headers, coding data, workflow history. This knowledge is used to offer the users the most probable workflows to choose from, and all of it's happening in real time while you process the invoice. So the more you process invoices, the more smart it gets. All right, so I'm going to collapse this image so that I have more space and just kind of go over the difference between the PO and the non-PO workspace. For non-PO coding, open this up. The user will initially see the header information, and to expand it, you'll just click the plus sign like I just did. This is where you will code your ledger lines. If you use projects, we can handle that as well by changing the account type. To code, simply start typing the dimension and you will see the list start to filter based on what is entered in the field. You'll notice that Dooap is fetching the dimensions directly from Dynamics as valid selections are made in real time. We have tax groups and tax amounts. We can handle any type of tax situation that you may have in place in your organization as long as it's set up in your Dynamics environment. The remaining amount is going to tell me whether I can move this invoice forward or not. We can set up validation rules to make any of these steps mandatory or show a warning for specific workflow steps. My remaining amount is 0, so I should be able to move it forward. If I wasn't, and this little icon would show up, this one is actually for my other one. So this one's good to go. I could press the check mark and it would move forward. So before I do any of that, I do want to make mention of the previous invoice subsection. You'll see that once I selected this particular row, this invoice, it automatically filtered out my previous invoices for this one-time vendor. And the reason for that is that we have the ability to copy coding lines. And so if you have, we have the machine learning. So let me open this back up and you'll see the machine learning populate. We have this, but until that gets extremely accurate, so the more you use it, the more it'll learn. But in the beginning, you can actually copy coding lines. So for example, if you had, if you were coding to 10 different dimensions, you could copy those from a previous invoice instead of having to fill them out. So that's pretty neat. And then this is our machine learning. And I do want to point out that there's a lot of offerings out there that can predict coding for one coding line, but Dooap actually can predict coding to multiple coding lines. When I press the check mark to approve, the invoice will move forward and it'll bring up the next invoice to handle. So in this instance, it would go to Kristen and then it would disappear from my queue, and it would I would be able to search for it, but it wouldn't be in my outstanding invoices. All right, so I'm going to open up the PO now. PO processing in Dooap is very simple. As long as the PO number is on the invoice, Dooap is going to look at the Dynamics environment for that PO number, and if it finds it, it'll link that PO to the invoice, as well as any product receipts. If three-way matching is being utilized, from there, it'll look at the matching quantity and the matching price for any amount differences. And if there are no differences, or if the difference is within tolerance, which we can set up in the admin menu, then it will be, it'll go ahead and go through. Otherwise, it'll be forced into workflow. So at the top, you'll see that I have a workflow just in case. So if I need to make any of those adjustments and it needs to be approved, it would then go to that person. And we can also fetch from Dynamics the orderer or the requester. So this is what my PO workspace looks like. You'll see the PO number as well as the product receipts pulled in here. And if I need to update that, I can click on the box to open the selection window. So this data is being pulled from Dynamics during the daily AX import, but if a PO has been created in between, you can pull that data automatically by pressing the refresh button that you'll see here. You'll notice that I have a $95 difference. If we open back up the invoice image, you'll see that it's a miscellaneous charge. We can add that miscellaneous charge here, and that will also be transferred into Dynamics. If you're going to be utilizing this, you just need to make sure that the charge codes are set up in Dynamics. Once I add that charge, my difference will go to 0, and I'll be within tolerance. So if we add that rate charge for 95, you'll see it automatically change that difference to 0. My warning goes away, and I can send it along. A couple of things up here at the top. We have our transfer to payment. This is a holding area for the invoices before they move into Dynamics to give the AP team an opportunity to take one last look or make any changes before transferring the data. We have a new feature that we can toggle on auto transfer, and this auto transfer will look for that checkbox to be checked, and it'll send it in a batch every 5 minutes. So if you have that checked, if you're going through and you click them, we can have that sent through. Coming soon is the ability to have either auto post or auto transfer checked or unchecked within like a vendor setting in the admin. We have our search screen where we can, it's permission based. So you could search the entire database of invoices if you have that particular permission. And then we have our admin. The admin module is where the administrators can adjust the configurations and see the data imported from Dynamics, as well as set up approval limits and build workflow presets. All right, so let's back over into here. Just a little bit about our mobile app. With our mobile apps, the approval process is super simple and easy to use right from the approver's mobile phone. Utilizing the latest app technologies, any user can easily navigate the Dooap invoice processing screen with little to no training at all. Within the mobile app, you can access all the features of the desktop version on the go. So for example, you can see here that we have our invoice header information. We have the full invoice image where you can actually use pinch zoom to read the smaller text on the image if necessary. We have the full approval workflow. So you can see who has already processed the workflow or the invoice, who will need to approve the invoice next, and if the user has the proper permissions, they can actually adjust the workflow directly from the app. It'll show any comments made by other users or make comments, which are immediately available on the desktop version. This is the really cool part. You can actually add and edit coding on non-PO invoices. So if the approver group has the permission to edit the coding, the user can edit the coding directly from the application, and it works exactly like it does in Dooap. It basically will fetch those dimensions in real time from Dynamics as the selections are made and automatically appear in the desktop version for anybody who's watching. You'll also see an invoice history for the vendor that the invoice is being processed for. And then we also have a full invoice history in the hamburger menu. So you'll see here over on the side, whenever the user comes into the mobile app, they're actually going to see a stack of cards. So utilizing swipe technology, the user can swipe cards to the back of the stack, and when the user arrives on an invoice that they want to process, the user can swipe to the right to approve or click to open the invoice to see details. And then from the profile, the user can also toggle between their own invoices and any invoices of which they are the assigned delegate. So in this example, Simon. The mobile app is available in the App Store and on Google Play. All right, so a little bit about our onboarding. We have 3 packages. We have our standard package, which is kind of more for like the do-it-yourself-minded companies that don't need a lot of guidance, but we're here for you. Premium, which is a little bit more involved on our end, and then we have custom, where it's more of you're revamping your entire AP process. We're redesigning. We need multiple key user training sessions, that sort of thing. With Dooap, we have streamlined the process of onboarding a new AP solution to be possible within 5 working days. So this is possible because Dooap lives outside of the Dynamics environment and simply needs to be connected, configured, and tested. So here's how. On day 1, the consultant will kick off the onboarding and gather use cases, as well as connect the Dooap and Dynamics UAT databases to ensure the successful transfer of Dynamics master data and Dooap invoice processing. The consultant will then configure the system to allow users to access and begin to utilize the application during the testing period. On days 2 and 3, the consultant will hold a training session for the key users and release those users to test the application to ensure that it is configured for your organization. And we provide a pretty detailed test case list to kind of guide you on that path of testing the system, and then encourage you to use real invoices and make sure that all of your processes are covered within the configuration that has been done. On day 4, once testing is completed, the technical team just needs to meet to connect the production databases of Dooap and Dynamics, and then complete the final configurations in the Dooap production environment. And then on day 5, the environment's ready to be rolled out to the organization and begin processing invoices. This timeline is based on full resource availability, and while it's not always realistic with the workload of the AP department, we do have the capability to do so. So as an example, we had an onboarding project recently that went live in a month, all while adjusting to the process changes that were caused by the pandemic in their organization. All right, so now we have some time for questions.
And we are moving into the Q&A portion of this demonstration. If you haven't already asked your question or you think of any more questions that you'd like to ask Amanda, go ahead and type your question into the chat box and hit send to submit them to me. Amanda, one of our attendees wants to know whether this solution integrates with any other ERPs other than Dynamics.
Not currently. So currently we are only Dynamics. We are looking and investigating into moving into other ERPs in the future.
Another attendee is wondering about the accuracy of the data through the process. Are you using OCR? How accurate is the information? How do you avoid exceptions?
That's a great question. So we actually have a couple of ways to get invoices into the system. So we offer a full service capture as a service offering that is, it includes real person validation, vendor template setups, all of that full service with a PO box or an email address that your vendors can send directly to them, or you can have an auto forwarding. That is a 99.5% accuracy. Now that offering does have an SLA of about 24 to 48 hours, but we also offer we have a partnership with ReadSoft Online, which does utilize OCR, and it's kind of more for those who want to have control over those vendor templates. And so we have both of those are included, and we do also offer integrations with any OCR that the customer may already have. We can work with that.
And that actually dovetails to another question we had from an attendee. They wanted to know whether the solution can ingest electronic invoices.
Yes.
Another attendee is wondering whether you have a supplier portal.
So we don't currently have a supplier portal. We do get that question quite often. We don't right now, no.
Walter is wondering how easy it is to configure workflows.
Very easy. I can actually.
I knew you were going to say that, Amanda.
I know. I can actually show you.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So
Walter, pay attention, Walter.
So in our workflow presets in the admin menu, it's basically just clicking and adding. So you'll see here we have a workflow. It's just a matter of clicking add approver, searching for that person. So let's search for Brad. Adding Brad. And then we can also do things like split the task. So we can have 2 standalone workflows in here. We can also do conditionals, as you see here. So we have Kristen kicks in at 5,000. I kick in at 10,000 in this particular workflow. So it's very simple to do. You can have as many. We have some customers who have hundreds of defaults because they set one up for each of their vendors. And then over here on the other side, you'll see that whenever we're in here, in order to switch the workflow, it's just a matter of looking for it in this drop down, which is searchable.
Don't leave this screen because Stephanie has a related question. She wants to know, how do you set up workflows for special invoices, such as those of high dollar, sensitive suppliers, or those that otherwise require multiple approvers?
Okay, so that kind of touches on the conditionals. So you would basically go back. So we have our conditionals. So if in this particular situation, if it was a $4,000 invoice, it would never hit these people. So in these situations, you would be able to add in if it needs to be approved at certain dollar limits, it would kick in here. And these also do have approval limits associated with each user. So if that user was in the workflow and they didn't have enough approval limit, then they would not be able to participate in that workflow.
VA wants to know, how do you handle multi-currency invoices for different shared services centers?
So we do have the ability to utilize multiple currencies within the invoice, and we also have the ability to do intercompany invoices within Dooap.
Sharon wants to know, what is AX 2012 or D365? And we've already given you a spoiler, Sharon, on one of these, but go ahead. What are they?
It is the platform that we integrate with. It's the full financial, where in our case, where AP would be creating POs and that sort of thing. AX 2012 is the legacy, and D365 is the newest version.
Barbara writes, we are having a challenge with invoices becoming stuck in an email workflow. How does this solution help us keep staff accountable and keep invoice approvals flowing? Maybe talk about some escalation procedures, for example. Amanda?
Yeah, one of the really cool things that we have is, you can see up here, I have Simon as one of my tabs.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a group of employees that are under you that are processing invoices, you would be able to see what they have in their queue by clicking on them directly from your own screen, instead of having to impersonate them. So basically, you would be able to check in on them to hold them accountable for what they need to do, and they also will receive that email digest once a day, letting them know that they have invoices they need to process, and they can access the system directly from that email using a hyperlink.
That actually brings us to a related question from Lori. She wants to know, can approvers be automatically notified of invoices approaching their due date or their early payment discount date?
Yeah, so that is actually in the email digest. It will have a table where it'll let you know what the due date is. I think it also includes cash discount date in that email. Also on the app, there is a very distinct exclamation point that's red that'll let you know that this has passed the due date or it's approaching the due date. And it will also tell you how many days past due it is.
Sam is wondering whether you have dashboards to help senior management know where things stand with your operations, your cash, your spend.
Yes. So we have Power BI report suite that we provide to all of our customers, just as part of the onboarding and part of the project itself. That is very useful for upper management in looking at a glance at where everything stands, what dollar amount people are, how many dollars people have approved, that sort of thing. And it's very clean looking.
I think that covers Mike's question, but I'll ask it anyway. He wants to know, where is reporting done? Is it done in Dynamics, or do you export data into another solution?
Power BI.
There you go. Walter again. Walter wants to know, what does the query tool look like?
Query tool. The search probably?
Probably.
All right.
Sometimes we have to guess, Amanda, at these questions.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So this is our old search, and we don't actually have the new search in our demo environment yet because it's being beta tested. But right now, it's kind of just a blank screen that comes in, and we can do a search like this. Our other search, it actually looks really cool, and it'll have things populate automatically, so it's not a blank screen. And then it's got kind of the way you're used to seeing things. So filters for vendor, company up at the top already, where it's a drop down and you can select. and then it automatically adjusts the results in real time without having to press search. And then that search, once it becomes available, it is also exportable.
Jennifer is wondering if you could tell her more about how you train users as they work from home.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I personally have been remote prior to the pandemic, right? So we already had in place a lot of the necessary tools to train. And while we did go on site to do some training, I did a lot of mine over Zoom or Teams anyways. So basically what we do is we just set up a time to go over. And I usually, with the standard package, which is the more, the customer's more hands-on and it's more do-it-yourself, it's really simple. I usually have, a meeting to go over the admin menu and how to utilize all of the configuration tools. And then I kind of set them free and let them play with it. And I'm available for calls if they need any guidance. And then I go and, I'm a consultant for this particular software, and I'm an expert in this, but the users are the experts in their job. So typically with the usability training, I try not to focus as much on telling them how to process invoices, because they know how to do that. It's more of a tips and tricks and how to utilize the system in the best ways and, best practices and that sort of thing. And then we'll have weekly Q&A calls where, the customer will go gather questions as they go if they're not super important. And then we'll go into those in just a full call. So it's really, I'm with our team, we're just kind of always available to put something on the calendar to meet. And it's really simple to do via the virtual platforms.
Martin is wondering about early payment discount tools.
Yes, like the cash discount dates. We do pull that information in based on the vendor defaults and anything that's sourced from Dynamics. That information will automatically populate on the header once the vendor is populated in that header row. It will honor that, so it'll let you know what the cash discount date is, the amount, and then whenever it transfers over, then it will be picked up from there.
We have a question from Amanda, presumably no relation. She wants to know, is the reporting Power BI integrated into the system, or do users have to export the data themselves into the Power BI tool?
No. So we actually provide that data set for you from the database, like your particular database. So essentially what you're going to get when we provide that, we create the Power BI reader credentials, we create the app, we create all of the visualizations, and then we provide that app and share it with you. And so that's automatically updated when we have new releases. So, if we add columns, that data set's updated, and it won't cause a delay in your reporting needs. But essentially, it's going to live on the Power BI side of things. So if you have a Power BI license and you have ability to look at those type of reports, you would be able to access those from there. So
Barbara?
And we are looking into putting a kind of another tab up here at the top to link to your particular Power BI app.
Barbara's wondering whether there's a minimum invoice volume or a maximum invoice volume that you recommend for this solution.
We don't. We actually have customers all over the map with the number of invoices, and our pricing is actually tiered based on invoice volume.
VA with another question. This time he wants to know, is the matching logic customizable according to the end user's requirements?
Customizable. I don't know if I understand the question fully.
VA, give us some clarification, and Amanda will be happy to answer it.
Yeah, so basically it just does, an overview of that. It's basically just pulling those dimensions from the chart of accounts that lives within Dynamics. So whatever, if you're utilizing multiple companies and those companies don't share a chart of accounts, it's going to honor that, and it's going to look at the company, and then it's going to look at what the available dimensions are in that particular company and pull in the proper coding.
Tom writes in with a question that's top of mind for many AP organizations as they work from home. Are there any tools in this solution to help identify potential business email compromise attacks?
Ooh, I'm not sure about that one. I will have to check with our security documentation on that.
VA wrote back in with clarification, Amanda. The question is, can I choose whether a transaction is two-way matched, three-way matched, or four-way matched?
So that matching policy is being looked at from Dynamics. So whatever it's set to in Dynamics is what we're going to honor on our side.
A question from another attendee. They want to know if there's any exceptions resolution tools that are available vis-a-vis your integration with Dynamics.
So I'm assuming that means like an exception log system. So if that's the case, we keep complete logs. So if there are any exceptions, so in particular, we have invoice exception, or like the invoice image exception. So when they come through, if you're using the full service, we do have an email that gets sent out if a invoice cannot be processed using the particular image that was sent to them. We also have and let me see if I can find one that has an error. Mm-hmm. So it looks like this one that Kristen sent in has an error. We do surface the Dynamics error in the audit history. So this big ugly error is coming from Dynamics, something about a cost center not being allowed in combination with something else. So it's warning that those dimensions don't work together in this very long, ugly thing. But it does surface those, if it goes over with error, sometimes it's going to still go into pending, but it'll let you know what happened and why. And you can either return it back in here and resend it, or you can update it in Dynamics directly.
Tom wants to know more about the security, not only for the application, but also for your mobile app.
That I would probably need to just send you a security. I'm more on the UI side and usability, but I can send that security documentation.
So, Amanda, a question from me now. We know that many IOFM members are looking to automate this year as a result of what's happened because of the pandemic. What advice would you give them as they start their automation journey, whether it's coming from paper or refreshing the technology they might already have?
Yeah, I mean, I had a customer go live probably about a month before all of this started, and they were full on paper before they put in our solution. They were, walking from office to office, handing off paper invoices with writing on it. Because whenever they would send in like their test or their example invoices, it was like dimensions were written on the page. They were just walking between offices. I've heard from them multiple times throughout this, because they're all working from home now, that this was a game changer for them, because they can do everything without having to walk to each other's office. They everything's in one spot, so they have full visibility of everything that's happening. Everything transfers over seamlessly into Dynamics unless there's some type of built-in rule that stops it in pending. And then the app, just in general, even without working from home, people who travel, approvers who are always on the go. They don't have to open their computer to get to it. They can just open their phone, swipe around, click, and it's done. So I really feel that this is a really good tool. And, you know, while this may, you know, this is going to end at some point, but I don't know that the virtual aspect of it is going to go away because it's working so well right now. Just with, you know, within companies that I've heard, they're keeping the work from my company in Dooap. We've actually went fully remote. So, you know, I think it's really useful because it's all in one place.
Keeping your consultant hat on for just a moment, what's the biggest mistake folks make in your estimation when they're automating AP?
Oh, that's a good question. Biggest mistake. Like with our system or just in general?
In general.
I would say not fully automating. So not utilizing softwares to their fullest ability. For example, having this in place, but making it to where your POs have to go through the process of a workflow each time. Whereas we can have it skip through the workflow if it's fully matched and tolerant. So like not setting up defaults where you're having to select the workflow. I feel like our system is so good at making it easy to automate that sometimes I think the biggest mistake is not fully utilizing that.
That's all the time we have for this demonstration. I have just a few housekeeping notes to go over before we officially end and transition into our next session. If you could please fill out the short evaluation form that will appear once you close out of today's event, that will help us better serve your needs in future virtual demo days. As a reminder, this event will not be available on demand. Please plan to attend the sessions that are of interest to you. Your webinar confirmation email provides you with full day access, and you can come and go as you see fit and your schedule allows. Thank you again to Amanda for a great product demonstration, and thank you to all of our attendees for taking time out of your busy days to join us. This demonstration was brought to you by IOFM and sponsored by Dooap. Up next, we have